Hi everyone, this is Sammy Chichester from Revolver, and today I'm here with none other than keyboardist and producer of Bring Me the Horizon, Jordan Fish. Jordan, how are you doing today?
I'm brilliant, thank you.
You're brilliant.
I've changed it, yeah, from our preamble. I'm trying to make it less depressing, so yeah, I'm on top of the world.
We were previously just talking about how 2020's kind of dampened people's spirits, so
it's rubbish, frankly.
At least it's almost over, but hopefully 21's a little bit better. But
who knows? It could
exactly. It really, honestly, could be worse. So
we just don't know.
No, but what is good about 2020 is your new record, Post-Human Survival Horror, which is what we're here to talk about today.
I like what you did there.
I just moved it around. So I do want to talk about this record because it's an absolute monster. And, with everyone sort of, you brought fans into the recording process a little bit, with behind the scenes videos and things like that. And I know that there were some pieces and parts that kind of existed beforehand, but I'm curious, how long did it actually take you guys to do it? Like those parts aside, how long did the recording process actually take?
Yeah, so we really started probably in March, I would say, was when we kind of got into consistently writing. So yeah, March, April, May, June, July. It's probably like four or 5 months from start to finish, maybe pushing 6 a little bit. We did have some stuff there's bits from January. We did some writing in January that made it on, but yeah, it was probably like really 4 months solid, and then so a little bit extra at the end. The last month is mostly just like faffing around. But it was relatively quick. But then it's
it is relatively quick for you guys, right?
Yeah. Well, the writing process probably took as long as we would ever spend writing, but then from when we finished to releasing the record was quite tight. It was only like 6 weeks, which is normally it would be like, it can be anything from, some people sit on a record for like a year.
So. I have a feeling a lot of bands are sitting on a lot of records right now. So
yeah, well, I'm sure it would be tricky had we written it before. And I think it would have been a difficult decision to know whether to drop it and then not tour, because obviously for a lot of bands, touring is such a huge part of where you make your money. It almost feels like you would be wasting your record to drop it. But we just kind of felt like it was a free hit for us to try and release some material. So initially it was just really the one song, and then it was okay, well, maybe we should try and make it part of an EP. So it was like, we'll write some other tracks, and then it just kind of became so normal for us writing that way that we were like, we could carry on like this and do the whole record and more records, to be fair, in the same exact way.
Yeah, it's really unique how you've done it completely remotely. And I guess, aside from that, which is a major challenge, as a producer, sort of your job is to work through these challenges as they pop up. What were some of like the major challenges that also popped up during this record making that, you guys kind of had to solve or just sort of just fuss out maybe in that last month?
Well, there was some technical. So me and Ollie produced the record, like we have done for the last couple of records, and
yeah,
he is actually quite involved in the production process. I'm probably more technical, a bit more hands-on with the music, and he's a bit more creative in the production side. But it is very much a pair. So, for example, we worked with Mick Gordan, the guy. He did some work on the record, and I really didn't have much to do with that process. Ollie kind of we would send him the track, I'd deliver him the stems, Ollie would give him a bunch of notes, creative notes of ideas he had, and then we'd just wait, and Mick would just send us whatever, we just get a bunch of files, and then away we go. So, that's production really in terms of the creative direction. So yeah, the initial things were recording vocals. I'd already always recorded Ollie's vocals since I joined the band, so him recording himself was a little bit of a technical thing, just because he didn't really know about gain staging, and there's a few kind of little fussy things like that, but they're all things you can tell someone how to do over the phone. They're not complicated, to be fair. There was a few file things and how to get files between us, and how we could stream the music so we could both be listening at the same time. A few little fussy things like that, which we figured out really quickly. And then it was just trying to figure out ways that we could keep it feeling creative and use our time effectively. I think that was it, and settling into a bit of a routine, working out how it worked for us. So yeah, I mean, in the end, we kind of had a little bit of a time. We'd normally get on about 11, 10:30, 11, and then we work till about 5 or 6. So it's pretty much like working hours. It's not that exciting, but like, because I've got family and stuff, it means I can still see them in the evening. So yeah, so we just kind of figured out a way that it would work for us. But yeah, in terms of like, there wasn't that many technical hurdles. With the guests was the main issue. There was a few with using baby metal, with the language barrier and time zones and a few things like that, because we wanted them to write their lyrics in Japanese. So there was some charts being passed around and lyric translation type things, but it was all fun.
You mentioned Mick Gordan, and just Parasite Eve is what you're referring to, and there's so much information.
He worked on the whole record.
Oh, really?
Pretty much, except for Ludens, which we'd already done last year, and Tears, single. But he pretty much did something. He did something on all the other tracks.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Because everything with Parasite Eve, there's so much information out there. I don't feel like I need to ask any questions about it because you can Google it at this point. But I did want to ask, what was the extent of his involvement with it? Because, he had done those Doom soundtracks, which you can hear bits, like, I feel like I hear bits and pieces on other songs. So He did kind of give you some elements for different songs.
He did, to be fair, he did a lot. Parasite Eve was kind of the experiment. So we sent him, I guess we just got to the song to a point where we would kind of like fuss around at the end. And instead of fussing, we just kind of fired it to him. So there was a lot of synths already on there, because that's how like I would write the music, is not just synth based, but obviously there's all kinds of things in there. And then we just sent it to him and to see what he would do. And pretty much, to be fair, what he sent back, it was kind of just like laid on top. Because he'd like because he'd done his synth work over the top of what I'd done, it worked together anyway. So yeah, it's pretty much a mixture of my synths and his synths combined, I guess. And he'd just give us 50 synth tracks basically, and you could just stick the 2-track on top of the song, and it was a whole layer of detail, and it was amazing, to be fair, what he did. I've never heard anything like it. It was insane.
It is really cool, but I'm wondering how you're going to pull that off live.
Who cares? I don't know. Don't worry about that. I mean, that's the last thing any of us are thinking about. So
true. But I'm just thinking about you up there on stage, just trying to get all the transitions and sound.
I'll just pretend. Worry about it.
Well, I do want to actually, this record is a narrative in a way, and I do want to go back to the first song, Dear Diary, which is complete kick in the face to everyone who says Horizon aren't heavy. The songs, you could have just written a heavy song, but this really, I feel like, pulls a lot of the old elements of Horizon back into it, whether it's the drum patterns or the vocals, or even just the riffs in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how you and Ollie decided, we got to write this beast of a song.
The concept for it came from Ollie, to be fair. He sent me some references and he said, we should do a song like this. This is usually how the ideas work, is he'll have an idea and then I'll try and interpret it, and then that's how it begins, kind of thing. So he sent me a bunch of references, and it was like Slayer kind of shit that I basically don't even really know, because I'm not like a huge traditional like metal, thrash metal fan, really. So obviously I know what Slayer sound like, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert. So then it was just immediately I just would listen to that and then take some, I just take some influence from it, I guess. It's the thrashy drum beat, and I wasn't really thinking of previous Horizon stuff, to be fair, at all, particularly. It was just, I think we just instinctively sound like that because of Ollie and his voice and the type of riffs and everything, I guess. But yeah, it was just trying to do something that felt a bit thrashy, but also still had some of those slightly more cybery elements, kind of matrixy type feel that was on the other songs. So yeah, that guided the initial direction, and it was his idea to do the guitar solo, and that was just, so yeah, I mean, hard to really say, but try and write a riff and then go with it. But yeah, it was definitely a Slayer influence, I would say.
The riff gave me a double take when I heard it the first time, for sure. Just because I just didn't expect it, you know. But there's no script with you guys, and I think that's sort of like, that is what's interesting, that you're able to mesh all these different sounds together. And you know, I know something that's been said is that Teardrops, for example, is the most Horizon song. You know, I don't know how, like, what are those check boxes? Because to me, I feel like there is no script for you guys.
No, there isn't really, but I would say that the bit of emotional, there's no real emotional pull in songs like Dear Diary, Kingslayer. It's not an emotional song particularly. They're more fun, energetic songs, and we do have those type of songs. But if I was to say, like, what are the songs that are like definitive of our career and like ones that I think I'm most proud of, it's songs like Drown. A song like Teardrops is a perfect example. It's still heavy and it's still got the production, but it's a kind of a traditional song in terms of the lyrical content and the type of melodies and stuff. And I just think that's what we do best. So I guess that's probably what makes it feel like a down the middle, Bring Me the Horizon song. You know, it's not like just breakdowns. It's not super silly, I guess. But there isn't really a definitive Bring Me the Horizon song. It's just, if you had to pick one song to play someone and say, this sums up this band, what would you pick? And everyone's going to have a different take on that. But right now, I would probably pick Teardrops and say, this is what the band sound like.
You know, you sort of have this, I don't want to call it instrumental, but it is a little bit of a break where you're sort of transitioning to the next part of the EP. You got Itch for the Cure, which I've been saying backwards all the time. So is it in fact a Linkin Park reference?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that was a quickie, like, because I've been saying it, Cure for the Itch, the entire time. So, you know, and the internet also wants you to collaborate with Mike Shinoda. So you're going to make that happen, or what's up?
I feel like we're so influenced by Linkin Park that I feel like it might be a bit weird. It's kind of like, don't shit where you eat, almost.
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't say no, obviously. I'd love to collaborate with Mike Shinoda, but like, I don't know if he'd want to collaborate with us. We probably got a bit too close to his I don't know. We'd just sound like Linkin Park, wouldn't we? So
yeah. I mean,
it wouldn't be such a bad thing.
No.
I would love to be honest, if it ever came up, but there's a lot of people that usually when we pick a guest, it's someone who's gonna make us sound a bit different. Like Baby Metal, for example, it helps us to, you know, it allows us to indulge in some kind of vibes that we probably wouldn't normally do on our own. You know, that song in general has like a crazy Baby Metal feel to the music as well, a little bit.
For sure.
So, you know, and it's just an excuse for us to write stuff that we wouldn't necessarily feel like we could get away with, I think. So yeah, that's generally why we don't tend to go for. I don't think Mike Shinoda would be that, because obviously we're so influenced by Linkin Park still to this day.
I'm glad you brought up Baby Metal, because Kingslayer is also, I think, one of these standout tracks there, and obviously that's the one that they're featured on. You know, am I right in saying that the pieces of it sort of existed before this EP?
Not only really, like the riff. We had a whole different song instrumental that we wrote in January. So we just took the kind of Prodigy-ish beat and the kind of main riff and the little synth hook.
Mm-hmm.
We had that stuff, and we never really had a chorus for it. So that was the starting point. And we always had it in mind for them, that song, because it just had that, had a kind of fast-paced, I guess, like kind of cyberpunky feel, which is how I think that's how we always imagined doing a collaboration with Baby Metal, was on a kind of track like that. Something a bit of, more of a faster, heavier track. So yeah, then I guess once we started working on that one for this EP, we sent them a demo and they were really keen. And then once they're keen, it kind of filters into how you naturally would take the song and the type of melodies you would write. Even it's so weird, but the second verse was written for them, so the melody is with them in mind. So it's not necessarily a melody that we would do for ourselves, but just knowing the type of like notes and scales and timings that they use, or your own interpretation of it, like determines how you take the song in a way.
Sure. And what I think is so impactful about that song is that your side of it with Bring Me, you've got full guttural going on most of the song. And then you have, Sue Metal's high voice, that it makes both parts hit so much harder, I think, in a way. And it really shows that you can take two bands that you probably would never put together and put them right together. So is it like, and with how many transitions are in that song, because
it is a bit bitty.
Yeah. How did you pull that off?
It was meant to be a bit of a, do you have like happy hardcore in
Sure,
America?
Of course. Yeah.
It's like, I feel like it's a very British 90s thing, but it's basically like, it's just like kick drum, heavy. It's kind of like quite horrible. It's basically what you listen to when, like, I was big into it when I was about 15, because it's just like sugar music, almost drug music, but it's like sugar infused, crazy music. And a lot of the time it had that kind of like pitched up, almost like a sample type female vocal, like a bit Euro sounding, quite euphoric. So we kind of wanted to give it that feel. I think it's like, it's a bit J-pop, but it's also got a bit of a Euro kind of happy hardcore feel. So that's why that second verse has got that gung 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 kind of weird kick drum thing. So yeah, that was one of the influences, was to take this kind of Prodigy thing, blend it with a bit of a happy hardcore feel, and then the chorus, I don't know, it's something else entirely.
I know I've mentioned this before, but again, I don't know how you're going to pull that one off live, because I feel like you're going to be working every single piece of the machines you've got.
Just press play. Stand there.
I'll just call it Butterflies. It's such a long title. Yeah. I don't even think I can gasp that out. It's an interesting song because I don't think we often hear Ollie sing like that, for one.
No.
And two, it's almost like you've been listening to this super heavy record the entire time, and it just stops almost to, like, I don't want to use the word ballad, but it is very clean. Mm-hmm. And it sort of ends on this note where, it literally ends on a note, but it just stops. So this kind of like, does that give you the opportunity? Like, I was thinking, whatever is the next Posthuman, anything can match up right against that. Kind
of, yeah. I think we just wanted to leave it we were a bit stuck on how to finish the record, to be honest with you. I think at one point we were thinking about having it end on Ludens, and then we just had the idea to do this. It was going to be kind of like almost like a kind of Celtic hymn type thing. And then it ended up becoming a bit more of a song. But yeah, we just felt like it would be more fitting to the time and to the record we were trying to make if it had a slightly more of a somber ending, because the record's quite fun in a lot of places and definitely quite frantic. So yeah, I think it's hard to really explain why you make the decisions that you make when you're making a record, but it just felt like the right way to finish and leave kind of a slightly hopeful but slightly sour taste, and also a slightly incomplete feeling of like, okay, this is just the first part of 4. Obviously we wanted the song to stand up on its own, and it has its own meaning, message, and its own structure within itself, but in the wider context of the record, I think that's what we wanted it to do, is leave a bit of an uneasy feeling of like, okay, the next one is going to be an important part of this story. This isn't just a record, to be taken on its own.
Have you even thought about where you're going from here?
No.
Fair enough.
We have a load of songs that we wrote that I think may end up being suitable, but no, I don't really know, to be fair. I think that's going to be the challenging part, really, because I think the last record has been well received by our fans, so the next one's probably not going to be. I have to make something that they hate.
You have to make something they hate.
It's the Bring Me the Horizon way.
It's true. I hate to agree with you, but it does seem like your fan base sometimes goes back and forth.
I know, but they like this one. That's the worry. I'm like, okay, this is going a bit too well. People like it.
You brought up Ludens, which obviously had existed before, and just out of quick curiosity, musically, lyrically, it fits on the record, but was the idea to bring it on here just because you want to change the lyrics and remix it? What was the purpose?
No, the lyrics were the lyrics anyway.
I imagine so, actually.
Yeah, we had to get rid of them for the game. And just that song for us was just really important as a band, and in terms of our writing partnership, I guess, or writing relationship. It was just a bit of a rebirth, really. Ammo was a tricky album to write, for sure, and it was divisive, and it did really well, and I'm really proud of it. But for sure, that album and that cycle took its toll on us and on me in some ways. So,
how so?
I definitely didn't have a positive feeling about writing at all.
Okay.
I would say I was dreading writing, probably. So Ludens, the experience of getting in a hotel room and writing a track in a really short period of time with no real pressure and nothing to lose, and then it being so well received was like a real just a really cool experience. So it felt like a shame to not put it on the record. I'm still really proud of the song. I think it's probably my favorite song we've ever written, I think, for me. Maybe I say that all the time, but it's one of my favorites for sure. I just think it would have been a shame if it wasn't given a place on a record, and this record fit is so perfect for it lyrically and
for sure, and
musically as well. It's kind of like it was the first stepping stone to what this whole record is. So it kind of showed us that we could, because we just messed around with doing some stuff, some real old sounding Bring Me the Horizon stuff on that track, and it was fun and we enjoyed it. So it was like the first time we've ever been like, oh, okay, that doesn't really feel like we're just giving up. It kind of feels like quite cool, actually, to be able to take some of that old stuff and throw it into the complete new sound. I think we've been so focused on like driving forward that we would never even have considered doing anything that feels that old Bring Me the Horizon before Ludens.
I do want to talk about the lyrics a little bit from your angle of receiving them. So much of Horizon is internal, and that's how people relate to it, and personally. But so much of this record, I feel, is external, right? There's a lot of usage of pronoun we. It's not just about the virus, it's about government, it's about environment. So I feel like a lot of Ollie's lyrics are sort of external, and that's really different. How did you take that when he brought you like, okay, like this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling?
I mean, it's always up to him, to be fair. So, I mean, I never know what he's gonna. When we start writing, usually at the beginning, he doesn't really say much about what he wants it to be about, because he doesn't know yet. But I think on this one, because of what was going on, it was always kind of obvious, especially with us having done Parasite Eve. It was like we've got so much. There's so much going on right now as we're writing. We had the Black Lives Matter movement was happening. There was Trump, all basically American stuff, but it was all over the news. Obviously not the Black Lives Matter, but the Trump stuff, the protests. Most of that was in America, and it ended up rippling around the world. But yeah, there was obviously so much stuff going on that I think it was kind of obvious to us and to Ollie that was going to be his interpretation of that kind of thing. So yeah, it is the first time that it's been so outwardly facing. But I'm cool with it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, and I do want to mention, it's not the first time you guys have done that too. I think sort of the sticking point is probably Antivist, but it really does truly stand out on its own that it is so just different. And
the only one is Tear. Again, that's another reason why to me Teardrops feels more like a classic Bring Me the Horizon song, because it's not so much. It's a bit more of an inward.
Yeah.
Rather than looking outwards or talking about something else, it's a bit more of a here's how I'm coping with this situation.
For sure. I think that's the only one to me. I would also agree that feels a bit more internal, and it feels I'm gonna say it almost feels like it sort of has like that sempiternal vibe, but it does. I don't know if I'm
we don't do that.
Totally wrong. Exactly.
The sempiternal thing's like a kind of in joke in our band, because it's just that one of those albums that you just don't want to hear the name anymore. I mean, obviously it's a great record and everything, but it's just like our pedestal record, isn't it, for our fans, like Sempiternal. So
well, I'll never mention it again during this interview.
No, you can mention it. We just joke about it. Sempiternal 2 is kind of like the in joke. I'm going to make proper Sempiternal 2 vibes, because obviously like that is what it feels like sometimes our fans want. It's just, can we just rehash that album any way, shape or form? So I guess this record is kind of like as close as you're going to get to a Sempiternal 2 kind of the thought of even saying that makes me feel sick.
Well, I'll argue this for people who want that. If you want to listen to the same record again, go choose other bands that you know are going to make the same record over and over again.
Or you can just listen to...
Not the Bring Me the Horizon. You have no script.
There's 10 bands who've done records that are basically exactly like that record anyway, so just listen to one of them.
Yeah, pick any of those instead. So final question for you. I know you had mentioned how much you had loved Ludens, and this is not like a favorite song type of question, but is there a song or just a piece of a song you're so proud of on this Posthuman in particular?
The second verse of Teardrops probably for me is the most emotional. Is the bit I connect to the most emotionally, but I don't really know why. So it's difficult because for me it's like the lyrics aren't mine, so I often don't know why. I just really like a section. It will just resonate with me, I guess. So yeah, I think it's probably the second verse. Teardrops in general for me, I'm quite like emo. I like emotional music. I just find that song is quite a deep song for me. So yeah, second verse especially.
It's a heavy song in a completely different way. I mean, it's almost, maybe I'm completely and totally wrong, but it's almost just like Ollie wrote the lyrics and just didn't think twice and put them out there. Because it really truly feels like it came from the inside and just went right on out. Right, there's no hold back in that song.
I think that's why I like that. It was the second verse is the line, and if you hear me, then you know how it feels to be alone. That's the line. Right. He wrote that and he was like, oh, I'll come up with something better for that. And I was like, that's perfect. Yeah. There's nothing better than that. That's perfect. It's like I was a bit basic, and I was like, you just over, you know, it's like one of those moments where that happens all the time when he's working on lyrics. Obviously, everything he does is good. It's just like sometimes he'll make them tied in with all this other stuff, but sometimes he'll just say something simple that feels like super, just perfect for the song. And I feel like that's what Teardrops is really, is just natural, his words coming out without him overthinking them. Not that he ever overthinks them, but you know, I like the simplicity of the lyrics on that song.
It's very relatable. So I think that's why it's impactful for you and impactful for a lot of fans. I think it was really well received when it came out. So yeah. Not alone on that one. Bring Me the Horizons, Posthuman, Survival Horror. It's out now. Thanks to 2020 delay production. You can pre-order it still online. Jordan, thank you for spending the time today. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
Ta-da.